Okay, so you want to buy a cruise ship. Pick a route, hire the captain, watch the passengers board, and here's the part nobody tells you. A cruise ship is the only floating city on Earth where every single thing your guests do. Sleep, eat, drink, gamble, get a massage, buy a watch. Every single dollar flows directly back to you. The ship is the hotel, the restaurant, the nightclub, the shopping mall, and the casino, all under one hull. You own all of it. And yet, the cruise industry has produced some of the most spectacular financial disasters in modern business history. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how cruise ships actually make money, why the ticket price is almost irrelevant, why owning a floating city is a different problem than running one, and why the math that looks bulletproof from the outside has a way of sinking people who should have known better. Cruise ships come in three sizes, and they're three completely different businesses. The smallest are river and boutique ships, 100 to 300 passengers, $50 to $150 million to buy. Think of a luxury yacht that holds a few hundred people through the Norwegian fjords or the Danube. Intimate, expensive per passenger, very low volume. Then there's the mid-range ocean cruiser, 2,000 to 4,000 passengers, $500 million to $800 million. This is the bread and butter of the industry. The ships you see parked outside every Caribbean island at 7 a.m. Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, these are their workhorses. And then there's the top of the category, the megaship. Icon of the Seas, launched by Royal Caribbean in January 2024. 250,800 gross tons, 20 decks, 7 pools, 40 restaurants, an onboard theme park called Category 6, and a capacity of 7,600 passengers plus 2,350 crew. Cost to build, $2 billion. It is the largest cruise ship ever constructed, and it sold out every sailing for its first year before it even left the shipyard. But the ship is just the beginning. Two costs nobody talks about. The first is where it gets built. You can't just call a shipyard and order one. The world's largest cruise ships are built by exactly 4 companies. Fincantieri in Italy, Meyer Werft in Germany, Chantiers de l'Atlantique in France, and Hyundai in South Korea. Their order books are full through 2030. Right now, if you want a new megaship, you're looking at a 5 to 7 year wait and a price that went up roughly 40% since 2019 due to steel costs, labor, and supply chain damage from the pandemic. The second cost is the flag. Almost no cruise ship flies an American flag. The Carnival Corporation, headquartered in Miami, owner of 9 cruise brands, flags the majority of its ships in Panama, the Bahamas, and Bermuda. Why? Because a ship flagged in the Bahamas pays Bahamian maritime taxes. A ship flagged in the U.S. would fall under the Jones Act, require an all-American crew, and face American labor costs. For a ship employing 2,000 people, that difference runs to hundreds of millions of dollars a year. The cruise industry didn't accidentally end up headquartered in Miami but flagged in Nassau. That was a very deliberate financial decision made a long time ago. Now the question that actually matters, where does the money come from? Most people assume cruise lines make money from tickets. They don't. Not really. Here's how it actually works. In 2023, Carnival Corporation, the largest cruise company on Earth, carried 12.4 million passengers. Average ticket price roughly $1,500 per person. That sounds like real money. But after you subtract the cost of the voyage itself, fuel, food, port fees, crew, the ticket often breaks even or runs a thin margin. Sometimes it even operates at a loss. The money is in everything that happens after you board. The industry calls it onboard revenue, and it is the real business. Drinks packages, specialty restaurants, the casino, shore excursions, the spa, the photography package, Wi-Fi, the art auction, the shop selling $400 sunglasses next to the pool. On a modern megaship, the average passenger spends $60 to $80 per day on top of their ticket. Across 7 days, 7,000 passengers, that's $3 to $4 million per voyage in pure onboard spending. The ship runs voyages 350 days a year. Do the math, and none of this is accidental. The design of a cruise ship is the same discipline as casino architecture applied to a floating city. The main pool deck is positioned so that getting from your cabin to anywhere useful requires walking past the spa entrance, the specialty restaurant, the photographers, and the shore excursion desk. The casino is placed between the main theater and the bars, on the logic that guests heading to the show have to walk through it first. The buffet is free and deliberately overwhelming, because passengers who feel like they've gotten good value spend more at the paid restaurants. The entire ship is an engineered revenue loop. And then there are the port deals. Royal Caribbean doesn't just dock in Nassau. It owns a private island called Perfect Day at Coco Cay in the Bahamas. Guests pay separately for cabanas, water slides, and beach clubs on an island the company owns entirely. Norwegian has Harvest Cay in Belize. Carnival has Princess Cays. Every dollar your passenger spends on shore at one of these destinations comes straight back to you. The cruise line didn't just sell you a trip. It sold you the trip and every stop along it. So with all this money flowing in from every direction, why do cruise companies go bankrupt? The short answer, leverage and volatility. A megaship costs $2 billion. Nobody pays for that in cash. The industry runs on debt. Carnival Corporation carried $35 billion in long-term debt at the end of 2023. Royal Caribbean sat at $22 billion. These are not niche financial positions. This is the structural reality of operating one of the most capital-intensive businesses on Earth. And here's the trap. A 7,000-passenger ship generates revenue when it is full and sailing. The moment it isn't, you still owe $2 billion. The crew still needs paying. The fuel bill arrives regardless. The loan repayment doesn't pause. In March 2020, the cruise industry didn't slow down. It stopped completely. Every ship in every fleet anchored offshore or pulled into port, empty. No passengers, no onboard revenue, no shore excursion income. Just debt, fuel, and crew wages against zero revenue for 15 months. Carnival burned through $500 million a month in cash just to keep its ships in working condition while they sat empty. The company lost $10.2 billion in 2020 alone. Its stock dropped 80% in 6 weeks. The industry survived because governments and lenders decided it was too structurally important to collapse. But it was close enough that several smaller operators didn't make it. Crystal Cruises, which ran some of the most acclaimed luxury ships in the world, filed for bankruptcy in February 2022. Its ships were repossessed in port by creditors. Passengers on active voyages were stranded. The Bahamas-flagged vessel was seized in the port of Nassau mid-voyage. There's a specific lesson inside that story. When a hotel goes bankrupt, the building stays where it is. When a cruise ship goes bankrupt, your asset can be physically detained in a foreign port by another country's court system. The asset doesn't just lose value, it stops moving. And a cruise ship that doesn't move makes nothing. That's a risk profile no other industry has. Beyond pandemic and debt, 2 mistakes repeat across almost every failed cruise operator in modern history. Mistake 1, wrong ship for the route. In 2000, a company called Renaissance Cruises operated a fleet of 8 mid-sized ships targeting independent travelers who didn't want the big ship experience. No private islands, no water slides. Smaller ports, unusual itineraries. The idea was smart, but timing was not. September 11, 2001 caused international travel to collapse almost overnight. Renaissance had no hedging, no cash reserves, and no lender willing to bridge the gap. All 8 ships were repossessed and auctioned. The company had existed for less than 2 years as a public entity. Mistake 2. Underestimating fuel. A large cruise ship burns 80,000 to 150,000 gallons of fuel per day. When oil is at $60 a barrel, a transatlantic voyage costs roughly $1 million in fuel. When oil moves to $120 a barrel, that same voyage costs $2 million. Your ticket prices are set 12 to 18 months in advance. Your fuel costs are whatever the market says they are the week you sail. Every operator hedges fuel contracts, but no hedge is perfect, and a sudden oil spike against a sold-out sailing schedule is a very difficult position to manage. This has pushed multiple mid-tier operators into distress in the same years they looked, on paper, fully booked. Step back for a second. The economics of this industry are almost uniquely paradoxical. A cruise ship at 100% capacity on a popular route with good onboard spend is one of the most cash-generative businesses per square meter that exists. The revenue concentration is extraordinary. $4 million a week from a single vessel that you own outright. And it moves. You can reposition it. Winter in the Caribbean. Summer in the Mediterranean. You don't have a fixed location problem the way a hotel does. But no cruise ship is always at 100%, always on a perfect route, always with stable fuel and calm seas, and no geopolitical event between now and the next 18 months of bookings. And the moment something goes wrong physically, not financially, physically, the numbers shift from asset to liability in ways that no other industry quite matches. January 13, 2012. The Costa Concordia, a 114,000-ton ship carrying 229 people, struck a reef off the Italian island of Giglio because its captain decided to perform an unauthorized close-pass maneuver to impress someone on shore. The ship capsized. 32 people died. The wreck sat on that reef for 2 years before a salvage operation, the largest in maritime history, finally moved it. Total cost to Costa Cruises and its parent company Carnival Corporate $2 billion for one nice decision made by one person on one night. The insurance covered some of it. The reputational damage to the brand took years longer than the legal liability to resolve. In this business, the physical asset and the brand are inseparable. Damage one and you've damaged both. Pull it all together. How much do you actually make if you get this right? 2 scenarios. Real numbers. Scenario 1. A mid-range ship. $600 million to build. 3,000 passengers. Caribbean itineraries. Annual revenue, roughly $350 million when you combine ticket income and onboard spending at healthy occupancy. Operating expenses, fuel, crew, port fees, food maintenance run about $220 million. Net operating profit, around $130 million a year. Factor in your financing costs on the debt used to build it, and you're looking at $60 to $80 million in real annual profit. Payback on the original investment, 8 to 10 years. Durable, predictable, and genuinely lucrative if you run it well. Scenario 2, Icon of the Seas. $2 billion, 7,600 passengers. Royal Caribbean hasn't published the per-ship breakdown, but analysts estimate a fully booked megaship at current onboard spend rates generates $700 million to $900 million in annual revenue. Operating costs at that scale run $400 to $500 million. Net operating income $250 to $400 million. If that holds across a decade, you've built one of the most profitable single assets in the history of commercial transportation. And if you survive long enough, you become something very specific. Mickey Arison inherited Carnival Corporation from his father in 1990. By the time he stepped back from active management in 2013, the company he ran operated 101 ships across 9 brands and generated $15 billion in annual revenue. At his peak net worth, he was worth over $10 billion. His family still controls the company. One ship became a fleet became a corporation became a dynasty. Because the underlying logic of the business is correct. People will always want to go somewhere. And if you've built the most efficient machine ever designed for separating them from their money while they're having the time of their lives, you've built something that's very hard to compete with. Just make sure the captain knows where the rocks are.